Welcome to the Martial Maze, Modern Combatives. I'm with my brother in the arts, Barakulat Shidoshi.
And I'm with my brother in the arts, Israel Lopez Sensei. Today we're coming from Springfield, Massachusetts, home of the Basketball Hall of Fame, home of the Springfield Rifle, and the Underground Alliance Martial Research Center.
In this episode, we'll be exploring the UNA way with its founder, Randy Haskens Sensei.
And for those who don't remember, or if you're just tuning in, Randy Haskins Sensei was on our first episode of the Martial Maze podcast called Raising the Bar.
He is the author of 3 books, Insight 101, The Way of Big Power, Martial Advice for Training, Living in the UNA Way, and lastly, From the Ground Up, A Teacher's Manual. So, without further ado, we're going to head on out to his dojo and get it going. Hey, yeah. So now we're on our way to Haskens Sensei's dojo. At this point, we've been talking a little bit about what we want to see out of this season and how things are going to go. I know we had a lot of big trips planned. We were looking for hard confirmations from certain martial artists out there in the martial community. But as I stated before, this is a very ambitious endeavor. So, we're going to see where it takes us.
Here.
Yes, it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
See the emblem right there. So yeah, it's evident we're in the right place.
It looks like we're in the right place. This is the home dojo.
Yeah,
we need to really talk about that.
Yeah, you can't go wrong though. I love home dojos.
Oh, hey, my man, how you doing?
The man, right here. Look.
Thank
doing?
you.
All right.
All right, welcome to the Martial Maze. All right, so go ahead, bring us on through, brother.
Welcome to my dojo / headquarters. This is my headquarters office right here. Give you a little grand MTV Cribs tour, if you will. My headquarters office. This is where I do all my writing and
Oh wow! Did you do a comic book?
that was one of my writings.
Oh, this is awesome.
But yeah. So I got my books right here that I've written, and I just finished another one.
The teacher's manual, yes.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I just plugged that earlier
Yep.
and stuff like that. So
yeah, this is where I do all my writing and my manuals, student manuals I just wrote. Had to print out a couple of copies. And then of course my living room. I sit here and view YouTube in my office or here and just process other people's training videos and stuff, just processing. This is my...
So, quick question, because it does come up from time to time. Now, why a home dojo and not a storefront?
Well, I was trained privately throughout my martial career in home dojos, private dojos, And so I keep that tradition alive. I don't really believe in commercial dojos because a lot of times you have to train anyone to keep your lights on. Here, my mortgage is always going to be paid, so I reserve the right to be selective, truly selective.
All right. Now I know a lot of for some folks, and this might be their first time being introduced to you. So you were at one point in time you were retired, right?
Yes.
You were in the prison system. You were a CO.
Yes, and the Mass Sheriff's Association Defensive Tactics Instructor Trainer for the state of Massachusetts.
All right. So we're headed down to the dojo.
Yes.
Here we go. This is what we're waiting for. Oh, look at that. Baracula Shidoshi already here. Ready to go.
Ready.
Now that we're downstairs, we did a little quick tour of the home front and the dojo, which is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
We're going to get right to it, yeah? So talk to us a little bit about what we're going to see today.
We're just going to discuss some concepts that are founded in Goshin Jutsu, which is self-protection arts, or arts focused in self-protection.
All right.
So we're going to demonstrate the use of some tools to achieve a certain goal that we try to employ within our dojo. This is Hanyo Kodo, one of my 11 black belts that we have in our dojo. So what we want to discuss is basically, if we think about a firearm, right? A firearm is a tool, a deadly weapon. It's a deadly weapon, and it's a tool that we use in order to protect ourselves.
Correct. Okay.
So let's replace that word firearm, or as I speak, think about karate as being that deadly weapon as well, right? All right, so firearm is a deadly weapon. There are certain things that we employ behind the use of a firearm that govern its use for different arenas or contexts. So if we take a firearm and we go targeting with that firearm, there's certain techniques that we employ that behind the use of that firearm in order to target properly that we wouldn't use in the self-protection situation or context.
Okay.
When it comes to martial arts in the use of karate or whatever system you study, there's certain principles that govern the use of that deadly weapon, whichever it is, for sporting as opposed to self-protection.
Okay.
For example, with a firearm, you have a thing we call respiratory pause. So as you're breathing and you exhale fully, there's that pause before you inhale again, where the weapon itself is resting on a certain point. Then you fire. That's for targeting. That doesn't really apply to self-protection.
Okay.
Because
why doesn't it apply?
well, within the use of a firearm, gunfights usually happen within 4 to 6 feet of each other. You know, people shooting on the street and things happening. Somebody's trying to run. Somebody's trying to shoot them. So respiratory pause, when somebody pulls out a firearm and you don your firearm, produce your firearm, you can't breathe and wait and then fire. You have to just track them and pull the trigger. Well, when it comes to karate or the use of karate technique, the same thing applies. There are certain things that people do within or behind their art, behind the use of their art, that are valid techniques and tactics for sport or aesthetics or whatever context they use it in, that really doesn't apply to self-protection. So when we demonstrate what we're going to demonstrate, we want you to understand that this is done within a pragmatic context, and everything we do is focused through that lens.
Okay, all right, so we're going to get out the way. Real quick, so for the folks at home, these two gentlemen, he's talking about firearms and gunfights. Just bear this in mind, if I'm not mistaken, that you both have law enforcement experience, yes?
Yes.
All right, so you spent years in law enforcement?
Yes.
All right, so don't say that to me. Say it to the folks at home.
Answer your question. Yes. Retired 22 years, Hampden County Sheriff's Department, Mass Sheriff's Association, Defensive Tactics Instructor Trainer for the state, teaching police and corrections defensive tactics. And my partner here, Haniel, is actively still an officer with the Hampden County Sheriff's Department.
All right, so that way, so we kind of, so that you understand when we're talking about gunplay. All right, so we're going to let you get to it, us, and come off of the mat.
All right, so here's the thing. I want you to understand that within a dojo, we train, against trained attackers, but it's about mutual benefit. So what's happening is, while my partner is studying how to execute or his techniques, utilize his tools. So if it's a kick, whether it's a thrust or some type of punch or whatever it is, he's learning how to do it in an educated way. But everything we do is to defend against someone who hasn't put that time in. Okay? So, this is what's going on. Not saying that you can't defend against someone who actually knows. It's just martial arts was designed to defend against the dregs of society, people who really didn't put in the time and effort. All right, so with that being said, what we are going to demonstrate right now is the use of functional techniques. What do I mean by functional? Functional are techniques that satisfy a basic rule. The basic rule is this: the first action or combination of action one executes should have the ability and or probability of neutralizing the opponent's ability to continue to fight or immobilize the opponent entirely. Okay? If it doesn't, if your action does not satisfy that rule, then it's thrown in the non-functional category. Anything in the non-functional category is strictly designed to build attributes. It's drills, or it is a drill to build attributes. What attributes? Coordination being the most important attribute, with the last three attributes being natural byproducts of that drill, which are cardiovascular endurance, muscular endurance, and muscular development. All right, so we're going to do some functional things that are going to deal with just common threats. 1 out of every 10 people is left-handed, which means the majority of our attackers are going to come right-handed. So that's what we're going to deal with right now. So it's my job, in order to stay safe, to set up a situation where I can effectively defend myself and neutralize this person's ability to hurt me. I don't want to initiate in this sense right now. Not that I won't initiate to keep myself safe, but in this instance, I'm going to bait him into throwing a punch at me straight. So what I'm going to do is just put my hands up, elbows down, and keep space between my hands, just like so. If I wanted him to throw outside arcing, I would just come like this as I talk to him. So I'm standing here talking to this gentleman. I'm like, listen, I don't want any problems. What are we doing here? Just please. And he comes up, and he loads up, and he throws that punch. All I'm going to do is trap that limb so he can't retract it now. I am not grabbing it. I'm just hooking it and then creating a bar across his elbow. So it's in effect hyper extending his arm. This neutralized the fight because he won't extend the other arm unless he can take this one back. So I neutralize the fight. Now, if I feel him pulling it and he pulls his arm back, I let it go and I come back with something. So once again, I'm standing here, he comes in, I come here, he retracts, I strike, collarbone, temple, jaw, nose, whatever I decide to strike with this. Or I can just keep it locked out. As he comes, I just come, just like so, fight's over. and I can talk to him. We call this negotiation space. I can just talk to him. Calm him down. We're good. And we back away. Fight is neutralized from my first action. My second action is destruction if I decide to. Or I can just destroy it with the first action by going straight through his elbow. Now, we're going to deal with the legs. Now, he's going to demonstrate an educated kick. Or it could be that uneducated football kick. It really doesn't matter. We're still going to deal with it the same way. So I'm standing here, he comes in, and I trap it. Fight is over. He can't hit me. He can't do anything. He can't even take his limb back. Now, if I want to, I have access to him. That football kick comes up. Same technique. It doesn't matter what limb. It's still trapped. Fight is neutralized. What neutralizes the fight in that respect? When I coordinate my movement with protection of my core, getting that straight line limb offline, it opens up a space for me. It also draws him back, or forward I should say, and puts his weight on that Achilles. So, he's not balanced enough to lift it up. His weight is forward. See the slight hop? That's why he can't take his limb back. Fight's neutralized straight from the beginning. It doesn't matter how much he tries to hit me, he'll never be able to. These techniques are very simple. Doesn't take any real energy, any strength to naturally protect your core. And then have the ability to deliver what you just loaded. The technique I demonstrated, the important part of it is for people to understand that the physical demonstration is simply an example to help you understand deeper principles. You see, a concept is what you want to do. Theory is why you want to do it. And the technique is just a physical example that a particular instructor chooses to use to demonstrate that particular concept. I train for pragmatism, and a pragmatically applied technique should satisfy one basic rule. That one basic rule is a basic universal principle of technique interpretation and pragmatic usage. That rule says the first action or combination of action you execute should have the ability and or probability of neutralizing the opponent's ability to continue to fight. or immobilize the opponent entirely. And if you look, you will notice that the technique that I'm demonstrating actually does that. The first action, when I'm being attacked, the first thing I do is I bait the person into the attack, which is a straight line attack. How I hold my hands baits them into throwing a straight line attack at me. And as we know, 1 out of every 10 people is left-handed, which means the majority of attackers are going to come right-handed. So when he throws that right hand straight towards my face, I then move offline and neutralize his ability to continue the attack by barring his arm, locking it out. He cannot extend his left hand because of the simple fact that the bar I create across his elbow at the same time hooking his wrist denies him the ability to bend that arm, in effect throwing his left hand out after. As long as his right arm is extended, he won't have the ability to come with his left. So I neutralize his ability to continue fighting, which leads us into a space that I dubbed negotiation space. I can talk to this person now. It's very important that we don't become enamored with physical technique. We just use it to a greater purpose.
Wow, man, I can't tell you enough. Thank you for doing this. You definitely never cease to amaze.
I mean, all I gotta say is that the techniques you performed were very pragmatic. It was easy to understand. You know, most people have hard times connecting the dots, and you made it very easy for people to comprehend how to neutralize a threat that simply. So I definitely admire what you showed.
Thank you, sir.
And I gotta tell you, I'm like, I was feeling your pain. You throwing it out there, you know, and then that went ooh to the groin. Look, man, thank you, definitely thank you for coming out and you know, doing what you do. And we definitely appreciate both of you. You're retired, but you're still active, so we appreciate you. So, because I know you have books, and I know there are ways for folks to find you through those books. But how do we find you if we want to come? If somebody might have been interested after this episode to come and maybe begin their martial study, learning the UNA way.
Well, you can always call me at 413-695-4978. Or you can look me up on YouTube. Goes by Underground Alliance. Or if you happen to be in the neighborhood and you see my symbol on my driveway, you'll know it's me.
There you go.
All right, so you've been watching the Martial Maze.
Modern Combatives.
Later.
We're out.
Next week on Modern Combatives, we travel to Harlem, New York to see Professor Mo, the teacher of the 52 Blocks fighting system. I'm not sure what he has in store for us, but I know that it's going to be an educational and exciting experience. I'm super pumped. So you definitely want to tune in.